You cannot exist in conflict with nature. It is your disconnection from the biological, organic, natural world that is causing you great contention and strife. This is what is vexing you. This is where your conflict arises, because you're running contrary to the very nature of your soul that you're attempting to force fit into something where it doesn't belong into. You're trying to press it into an area where it is never meant to be. The system that you're connected to is inorganic, unnatural, synthetic, artificial, and virtual. Now they're trying to retrofit this over everything on earth, forcing people to only accept this as the only way. And this is where the great tension is going to rise from. Remember, they never teach you in their indoctrination camps how to overthrow them. They only teach you exactly what they want you to know, just to get you just far enough to be an obedient slave. That in mind, you have to take it upon yourself to take action as to what is going on in the world right now, because you have the power. By looking at them for answers, they're always going to lie to you. By always viewing them as the authority figures, they're always going to deceive you. By taking action from the advice that they are giving you will always lead you down a dead-end road. It might look good and sound good and feel good and seem to be really proper and beneficial to you, but immediately you'll come to discover, unfortunately, that it isn't, and it never was, because you're plugged into something to which the only intention of that something is to cause your demise at their benefit. When you plug in to the biological, organic, natural, higher self, you are putting your faith back in the universe again, which is you. That's why the universe is always beckoning you to return home. Your home is your soul, your sacred space, a place you call your imagination. I refrain from using that word simply because it infers that the greatest power in the universe is imaginary. That's why if you look up the definition of the word imagination, it'll say just that. Non-existent, not realized, imaginary, fictitious, and so on. So when you begin to realize that everything that you've been taught and told is exactly what is steering you in the direction of staying plugged into this genetically modified organism, which is the antithesis of the earth herself, you realize that it's time to return home once again. Because that is where your inner conflict is arising, because your soul has a specific frequency that does not belong to that system. Your soul does not belong to that system. The mind is easily deceived because the mind is a child. That's why it's easily controlled by them. You have to learn to motivate yourself. You have to learn to heal yourself and teach yourself. Anybody can demonstrate and illustrate and show you things by presenting specific different types of graphs or charts or learning materials or some form of a specific curriculum that will, hopefully get you to realize that there are other ways to go about doing things in life. But invariably, only you can teach yourself. As I've said before, as much as we are teachers, we are students. And this is true. This is absolutely true. And the reason you're disconnected from your happiness is because you're connected to something virtual, something that's genetically modified, something artificial and synthetic, something mechanized and robotic. And this comes at the sacrifice of you losing your connection with your soul. That's why there's an old passage that says, to gain yourself is to lose your soul. It's very true, because you're sacrificing the biological higher self in exchange to receive these material trappings from an artificial community. This lifeless, generation. That's why they label each generation, the baby boomers, Generation X, Generation this, Generation that. It's just all meaningless. It's all just more of the same classifications and divisions and subdivisions. It just feeds into more of the same. So it's up to you to realize within yourself that if you fail to connect with the biological world, you'll aimlessly drift in that system. And where you'll find yourself, nobody knows, because you will always be sailing in the darkness, man. There's no light there. That's why you're always lost. And that's why the world is always about the same few things. It's always money, power, sex, control. It's always the same. It never changes. The packaging changes, but what's inside the box always stays the same. But what the universe has to offer is something entirely different. Something called love and compassion and kindness, warmth, unity. These are not utopian ideas. Trust me. This is very attainable and very doable, very plausible. And it is not unimaginable and unrealistic, like many would have you believe. Because you've been listening to too many of their alleged supposed leaders and advocates and authority figures. You've become blinded to the reality of God. And I don't mean religion, because a religion is the worst evil that occupies the planet. It suffocates the very spirit to death, and it chokes out the soul, forcing you to plug into something beyond words, because they supplant themselves in the place of God and make you believe that they are God, but they are not. But no matter what transpires on this earth, my friends, rest assured that Source, Creator, God, is always in control. The universe has seen this paradigm play itself out many, many times in the past. It's going to be a power struggle and a monster land grab for total global domination. So the eclipse coming up on Monday, they tell you not to look at the sun and not to look up because you'll go blind. The ancients always looked at the sun, and it gave them power and strength, and it gave them an insight into their higher selves and a strengthened connections with the earth and the universe. Whenever the system tells you not to do something, that's when I don't listen. And whenever they tell you to do something, that's when I don't listen. So whatever they tell you, I just ignore them. They tell you that their pills and their powders and their liquids and their formulas and their pharmaceuticals are healthy for you. At the same time, they're telling you that anything that comes from nature is deadly. So you have to figure something's going on here. And my hope with my channel is to get you to think for yourself. That's really the bottom line of all of these videos and the very basis why I started this channel in the first place. So you just process the information yourself, filter it, assess it, dissect it, analyze it, study it, break it apart, reassemble it, modify it, put it back together in a palatable form that is conducive to the alignment of your perceptive lens and your interpretive skills. But invariably, as always, it will always come back to you finding out for yourself that whatever you put in unconsciously is whatever you're going to receive consciously. But it is undeniable what's going on in this world. It's just more of the same fear-mongering and scare tactics. That's it. They're saying the end of the world is Monday. It's just more of the same nonsense. I've seen this for 5 decades now. And it's the same nonsense. End of days, Armageddon, doomsday, all of that. The end of the world. They control you with fear. Why? Because fear works. And look, man, as long as it's humming along nice, I'm not gonna swap it out for something we don't know, hasn't been tested yet. It's just that simple. But anyway, take everything with a grain of salt, analyze it, dissect it, study it, assess it, whatever you feel comfortable doing. But just don't buy into it, because it's just a package of lies, reboxed and repackaged to look different. But you open that box, it's the same old nothingness inside. It's the same as it was before, because it never changes. And it never will. But always remember, the universe is beckoning you to reconnect with your higher self and Mother Earth, because after all, that's why you're here. You're not here to keep tapping on Gorilla Glass with apps, ordering food to your doorstep, and putting money in on your online account and all that stuff. That's not why you're here. Because if you believe that to be the truth, I guarantee you'll find yourself coming back here again and again and again until you get it right. Make no mistake, and I'm going to say this before I end this video, There's never a point where God is not in charge. These people were not people at all, believe themselves to be the powers that be, but they have no power at all. Because if they did, they wouldn't have to resort to these games and tactics and trickery, subterfuge, chicanery, lies, illusions, deception, betrayal, the same stuff. So the universe ain't sweating man, and the universe isn't sweating what's going on, because this is just repeating itself. So anyway, think for yourselves. Don't buy into the lies. Don't believe the hype. Check the subliminals, and always remember, positive over negative works every time. God bless.